So we've got our reporter Pulele Treaty Jones, who is covering that conference for us, if it does indeed happen. A lot of confusion for those of us who aren't au fait with the back and forth that we've been seeing over the last day or so, Pule, ahead of this conference. That court interdict really putting a spanner in the works for that province and proceedings getting underway. What is everyone saying about things actually taking place and the conference actually happening and concluding tomorrow, as was the original plan?
Look, I mean, we just heard from one of the delegates there who we spoke to earlier on saying this is just chaos and that this could also delay the adaptation of credentials if conference were to convene. Last night's interdict just set a different precedent in terms of how the business of the elective conference may unfold, particularly when we also spoke to the applicants who filed an urgent application to have the IPC, removed from their position. Those applicants are quite adamant that this conference should be deemed illegitimate, and whatever decision that was taken previously by the IPC after a 9-month period should not be taken into consideration. But we've continued to get reaction from some of the ANC delegates and, of course, those participating in the conference. Right now, we're going to be speaking to the SACP Provincial Secretary, Mr. Sambata. Thank you very much for joining us on ENTA this morning, Baba. What's your reaction on last night's court interdict? What does it say?
The central issue is if you were to deal only with voting status, there would have no reason to go to court. Because when you discuss credentials, you're voting and non-voting delegates. So you could, based on a convincing argument, downgrade a person who originally would have been accredited as voting to non-voting status. So voting should have never been sent to court. We understand that their argument was about the 9-month constitutional stipulation and the time period of the IPC. That one's a court matter, but what the court said should not be amended outside a court. Because the court said IPC and IRC members are non-voting, which means as we stand today, conference of the ANC proceeds as per the ANC national spokesperson communication and the province. For now, the issue must not be a celebration of having taken a matter that would have been resolved in conference without money. That's why people must not only celebrate, they must be interested as to why there's money to go to court and the ANC has no money, literally, as an organization. So as we speak, as SACP, we think that the ANC's processes must be left first to ANC internal processes. Once those have been finished on engaging them, anyone then aggrieved, like we are in a free country, can then approach court of laws. But courts must then deal with those matters on the basis of principles of court, because court, it's not delegates. Delegates can still remove a person even today who's accredited with voting, but based on facts that credentials would be deliberated on, a person can be downgraded. So it's not a matter of court really to go and want a person to be turned from voting to non-voting.
So what happens here going forward from a layman's perspective in terms of now the court is saying the IPC does not have voting powers? How are some of the reports going to be passed over or debated about or rejected? Will the credential adaptation also be delayed? What will be the process thereof?
Remember, voting rights does not mean you have no right to present a report. Voting rights does not mean you have no right to be voted for. So that has not been taken away. They can still present reports as per the organizational responsibility. And then it is now voting delegates, not court, who decides whether to adopt a report or not to adopt a report. It's not the court process. What we are at is that if you had counted on support, for instance, 20 members of the IPC. It means for you, you must know you are now minus 20 because they will no longer vote.
Yes.
What it does not mean is that it does not take their responsibility to participate. What you will have in their tag, like mine, it's going to be declared non-voting delegate. So they will not vote when people go to vote or when people are nominated. They can't nominate, but they have a right as members of the ANC to stand for elections if nominated.
Doesn't that then subsequently affect the threshold as well?
Threshold is not counted including IPC. It's 70% of branches. And the 70% by the ANC is used on the total number of wards. It's assumed that you must have 70% of the total number of wards. So it's actually counted on branches that have gone. That's why if for instance, we say 70% of your conference is 100, and you have disputes that removes 30 from 100, it means after dispute, you've gone below the threshold. But if it's 100 and you have 150, it means 30 that is disqualified leaves you with 120. You still are in a constitutional parameter to go to conference because you have 70%, though there are others who qualified but disqualified on disputes.
As the SACP in the province, what's your stance in what seems to be a mess that the ANC finds itself in the province?
The ANC in Northwest, it's not a mess on support. Our support base still remains resiliently standing. What appears to be a mess amongst us, if you want to look properly, it's the history of proper governance, especially at municipal level. You would know that we are one of the provinces that are highly affected by municipal improper audits. So the record of our municipalities on audit outcomes is very bad. So on that instance, you need a leadership of the ANC that is going to focus on that in improving. Because improving record of audit, it's a way of indicating that you want to run proper governance. The second element that we have is that in structures and amongst ourselves, there's high contestation. And predominantly, this contestation is informed, in some instances, one, by people's interests to accumulate wealth and accumulate wealth through deployment. And in this instance, people contest for leadership positions as a basis to get in deployment. It does not matter whether I have a capacity on deployment, but if I have numbers to vote for me, I know I'm guaranteed at least an access to deployment. That's when factionalism is at its highest moment. So it is literally not the collapse on the support. The collapse more, it's in the organizational structures on functionality. We keep on getting elections of a provincial conference, and we are the only province that has been dissolved more than 3 times, which means what is not stable, it's organizational leadership. And for as long we have not paid much time on political education and ideological development, for as long we allow people to contest the ANC and not knowing ANC's organizational culture and character, we will forever have structures that collapse because we elect people on the basis of personal relations and how linked we are to them in terms of a faction, not on the basis of organizational capacity to lead the ANC.
And you speak about that challenge of factionalism, but also one would want to ask, have the alliance partners had any direct contact with Luthuli House on the disunity in the Northwest?
The alliance partners in the province has played a very critical role, especially in the past dissolution of the PEC and in the administration of Section 100. We have been involved. At a particular time, it was us who had said that the ANC's inability to resolve challenges in government is compromising first the African National Congress, compromising voters, and compromising the alliance. In this instance, for the past 3 or 5 years, we have been involved as the alliance, together with those that have been appointed as IPC leaders, in rebuilding the African National Congress and renewal on the basis of the past experiences that we had. But as we speak of now, we want to see from the report of the ANC. That's why a conference is critical, because it is a platform created for an organization to do assessment. In this instance, the assessment must be from dissolution of the PEC. Up until now, the assessment must be in the past local government elections. The assessment must be in the past general elections, but the assessment must be in the past administration as Section 100. How have we moved as a province? Based on that, we adopt the reports, meaning we would have charted a possible future.
Please don't give me a diplomatic answer with this one, and please be fair and honest with me, okay? Is the SACP supporting any candidates or slates in this conference?
We don't support candidates on slates. We support leaders that must be elected on the basis of the ANC principle, for instance, through the eye of the needle.
Which leader?
We don't have a person for now. We're only going to be exposed to who's contesting what when the nominations have been opened. At that time, we will not gauge personalities. We will gauge organizational capacity. The problem here in the province is that electoral processes of the ANC are commodified in our province.
So, essentially, if you're saying alliance partners played a critical role in getting the previous PEC disbanded, this in a way means you do not support the candidacy of Supra Mahumapelo.
No, Mahumapelo resigned as a premier, and then he was appointed in the IPC. Remember? Keep reminding him. He was appointed in the IPC. He personally resigned. We can no longer take him as a leader when he only leads the ANC when it suits him. If he comes back and contests, it is his right. But remember, we are not going to be resuscitating people whose contribution is known in the history of the ANC. Only voting delegates of the ANC can do that. SACP cannot do that.
But as far as my memory recalls, he resigned under pressure exerted by some, including some members in the SACP.
No, he voluntarily resigned as a premier. And he voluntarily resigned as an IPC member. Both occasions, it was his decision to resign. He voluntarily resigned as a premier. That's what he said in the legislature. We don't know who forced him. Secondly, he voluntarily resigned as an IPC member. Look into this instance.
Okay.
The ANC NEC, when constituting an IPC, gives him a chance to be in the IPC.
Right.
He sits in the IPC for 3 months. After that, he resigns. What else do you expect from the ANC NEC? Can it be really begging individuals whose only preoccupation is themselves?
So you're saying that apart from that, then, even though he is contesting, you may not be, what one would say, supporting him, as it would be sort of resuscitating again and recycling leaders?
No, ideologically, on the basis of what the SACP is formed for, he's not one of the leaders who are closer to what the SACP exists for. So I don't support people who are opposed to the existence of an organization we are members of. So when we go to an ANC conference, we don't just say this leader and that leader. Predominantly, we check the track record of a person and a leader on how that person relates with the alliance and how the person relates with the SACP as an organization. You don't remember that at one time when he was chair, he deliberately convened a provincial general council of the ANC to compete exactly with the date of the Congress of the SACP. Yet he was aware of the dates of the Congress of the SACP earlier on. If we can keep on relating and supporting people on the basis of our personal friendship, we will kill an organization and we will cease to be an organization. We are members of the SACP and we are not SACP. Anyone opposed to the SACP as an organization must not find solace to the leadership of the SACP.
Sambata, thank you very much for joining us on ENTA this morning. We will be watching the SACP's participation in this conference with interest. Quite interesting stuff coming out of here, and we'll continue to monitor this conference as whether it will be unfolding or whether it will be collapsed, such as some are suggesting it should be. Back to you in studio, Rupura.
Thank you very much, Apulele Treaty-Jones. Of course, we will be catching up with you as we see what exactly it is will be unfolding, as you've rightly indicated there.